vision for this, so I think it's awesome. I will try my best to not be, what is the word, obnoxious talent. Hey everybody, this is going to be the first of what we hope is many of these podcasts. It's a learning tool, but it's also just kind of getting to know everybody that's in this family that we call Hwy55. Obviously, there's no way I could have done my first episode with anybody other than Neal and April Dennis. I mean, they are literally, the way we're finding out with DNA now, they probably are blood somewhere way back down the line, but they're my brother and my sister. I love them dearly, and also they're wonderful operators. They're really good at this business. So the first one of these podcasts, I want to share it with them. A lot of you may know, you may see on Workplace that they are out of Lenore, and see their amazing kids nights that they post, and we're going to get into that, and hopefully they'll be able to guide us. And this is really cool because it's really just Kenney, Neal, and April having a conversation. We've done this through the years. We used to call it Drink Think when we were younger, and we could actually have a drink and not wake up with a headache or be out of sorts for 2 days. And we'd literally sit around on Friday nights and open a bottle of something and literally talk about the business. And some really cool ideas have come out of that, and some that I wish we'd recorded too because they were really funny and they would have sucked. Okay, so having said that, welcome Neal and April. Good to see y'all. Y'all look exactly the same as you did a long time ago. I mean, yeah. Let's just start off with that, We'll start off with that because literally, Neal, I want you to kind of tell your story about how you got involved in this company and then how we managed to drag your significant other in as well a little bit after the fact. You want to share that with everybody?
Yeah, actually, I got to give credit to Dan Jones. He brought me in to meet you. Dan and I had been friends for a long time, going back to Domino's and a place called Mr. Gaddy's and several restaurant jobs. And Dan got involved with you, and he said, "Man, you have got to come meet Kenney. He's totally different." And so I did, and yes, you were totally different.
Well, I mean, you're comparing me to Mr. Gaddy, so obviously I didn't have a big bar to hurdle, okay, just so you know. But yeah, I appreciate that thought, though, okay, I really do.
Actually, at this point, I had worked for everybody. I had worked for Transamerica, which was the biggest finance company in the world at the time. So I compared how they had treated me with how you treated your employees, and it was a world of difference. One of the most memorable things you ever told me was, hey, if you treat your people right, everything else will take care of itself. And you have always lived by that. And I've tried to model that as well. And that's what excited me about coming to work for Andy's way back when.
Well, let's just dive into that a little further because we're not going to bring April in yet. But you come to work with us, and back then, I'm sure, I probably had you on like a 30, 35-hour work week, something like that in those early days. Was it something like that we did? Maybe we were on multiple vacations and stuff like that too?
Absolutely not. You gave me a schedule of one night off at 5 and Sundays off if my labor was in line for the previous part of the week. And on that Wednesday night, you advised me, once you leave, hang around a little while and go back in and make sure they're doing it right. Sneak back in and just check them out. So,
I mean, what's so cool is, this past managers meeting, we talked about getting back to our roots. And, what people need to understand is that in those early days too, our volumes were so low that we had to work that in order to get our labor in line. We just had to work because we were salary people. At 350 righteous bucks a week, okay? We were salary people, so we had to work that in order to make our labor work out so that we could make money, believe it or not, on a $22,000 a month store. We got stores out there now doing $22,000 a week sometimes, and they're not as profitable as they should be, and some are actually borderline not profitable. So it's kind of difficult for us to understand. But so you came in those early days, and I'm literally telling you, you're going to work, basically 5.5 days. You're going to work 6 days a week, okay, and you get one night off, and then you get Sunday off. Because you needed to go recharge yourself a little bit, and then we're going to get after it again the next week, right? Right. So,
And by the way, you also took me while you're in there to do the work of 2 people all day too.
Do the work of 2. Yeah. Well,
Work like 2 people.
I think.
While you're in there all day.
And look, you know what, man? That hasn't changed. That just has not changed. I mean, I feel like, and I think I prove it. For a lot of the times, even at 60 now, when we open up a new store, I feel like that in order to be a great leader, you get speed of the boss, speed of the crew. You have to be the one going the hardest. You have to be the most enthusiastic. You have to be, you have to have that goal for the day. You have to have all those things. Just you're emitting that all the time, and guess what? Those folks around you are going to be like, hey, I'm in, and now you start to get those people around you, and they care. And look, I mean, let's be honest, Neal, back in the early days, man, we had every reason when we were working 6 days a week, we had every reason to not walk in there or to walk in there and go, gosh, I'm so tired. We had every reason to whine, but we didn't we?
No, could not.
You had to walk in there and, like you said, speed of the boss, speed of the crew. If I walked in there with a sour look on my face and my shoulders down and dragging, the whole crew was going to be dragging. So I had to walk in there with fire every day, and I tried to every day. And you know what? A lot of times, the crew would pick you up if you did have a bad day, because you'd pick them up every other day. You remember how that works too, right?
Oh, 100%, 100%. I remember I had a couple of key wait staff that could tell that Kenny's a little off today because he's a human being. He's not a machine. And it was almost like, we got your back, bud. We got you today. We'll ramp it up today. You just stick your head down and cook today. All right, just keep plowing that food out, and we'll make sure that everybody leaves here smiling. And that was really cool. That was really, really neat. Well, let's flash forward because April's working for Bojangles at the time. Y'all know that spicy chicken place, and she's working for them, and she's a regional manager. And she's watching this Andes thing, is what we were called back then, with a little bit of a wary eye, if I recall, and a little bit worried about this Kenney Moore being a cult leader because Neal Dennis has changed, and she's worried that he's gonna have to wear Nikes and maybe drink some Kool-Aid at some point. So she's very wary of us at that point. Tell everybody how you kind of got her involved, besides refusing to sleep with her if she did. Okay. That's a joke, because once again, y'all, we go way back, okay? Just so you know, we go way back, all right?
You made a statement when you said that Neal had changed and she had noticed the change, because up until that point, I was 31 years old, and it had been all about me. What's good for Neal? What's good? What makes Neal happy? Neal wants to go play drums in a heavy metal rock band. Okay, let's let him do that. Let's see if that makes him happy. Neal wants to do this. And working in the environment with Andes, and you told me it was not about me. And if I made other people successful, then I would be successful. It all resonated. And one day I was walking out of the courthouse. I forget why I was in there, but I was walking out and I saw a lady coming in, and I threw the door open and I said, "Hey, how you doing today?" That was not me at all. But yes, I give you credit for that. And that's part of what spurred her interest, because she saw that I was going to do this thing and help make this thing a better thing, regardless of whatever else happened in my life, because I was committed to it, because it had changed me. And she just was intrigued by that. And I kept bringing her inside a little bit. Hey, let's, help me do the books, help me pay the bills, and finally, one day she just said,
can we make it work?
Can we make it work? And I said, absolutely, we can.
Yeah. So I was sitting on the sidelines watching this happen, and Neal he said that he had never really been passionate about anything other than music, and to see him change, and to see him, it wasn't about the hours, it wasn't about the pay, none of that mattered. It was all about him being a different person and him feeling different. And for me to see that as a wife, I kind of looked at it, and I remember him telling me one night, I love you and I hope you'll always be here, but I am going to do this Andy's thing. And I thought to myself, I have never, we dated for 10 years before we were married, and we've been married, I guess 3 years at this point. We got married in 88, 91, 92. We've been married 3 or 4 years, and to see him at that level.
Let me stop you there real quick. You say you dated for 10 years. So obviously, Neal being excited about something, obviously he doesn't like to rush into things, does he? Because literally he dated you for 10 years before he married you, correct? And that shows you how strong and how much persistence you have is what, all right, I'm sorry, just a side note. Please continue on.
I want to see if she was going to stick.
That's what he always said. He put me through everything he could to make sure I was going to hang around. And he did, believe me.
Every time.
To see him
say that, I was like, hey, you're this passionate about it, let's go for it. And so like Neal said, I kind of watched from the sidelines, and being in I've been in a restaurant for most of my life at this point. I started when I was 14 in the restaurant business, and to see Neal this excited about something that was dealing in the restaurant industry was just phenomenal. So I would go in at night after I finished working. I would slide over and help him close, or I would help him line up some interviews, and
you brought me some grill cleaner one time, and I was like, "Oh, baby, I love you."
Because we didn't have grill cleaner at Andy's.
Well, let me tell that story a little bit real quick. And you know what? I still haven't changed. I do not believe in wasting money. I just don't believe in it. But back then we would use lemons for juice on the grill to clean it, and we had grill bricks. And some of the people watching this may have worked grill bricks. And Dan Jones still swears to this day it's the best way to clean a grill. I think he's out of his mind. But grill cleaner was something that you just poured on, and it magically lifted all the stuff off the grill. And that was you showed that to Neal, and he of course brought it to me. And probably a year or two later, I think I put it in. All right, but there was no need to waste all that money right away. Yeah. Let's use Bojangles grill cleaner if we can. It's cheaper. So that's it. Hey, that's great for your food costs right there. Yeah. But didn't you also, April? Didn't I make Neal an owner prior to you coming on, and didn't you buy a new car?
Yeah.
And we forced you to put on your car an Andy's license plate on the front, even though you were driving up to your job at Bojangles, right? We didn't force you, but we strongly recommend it. So, but tell that story if you would.
So Neal and Kenney get together, and they've worked out a deal. Kenney's offered Neal, he's presented Neal with a deal that is, hey man, you're going to own the store on, it would have been October the 1st. And I don't know, this is probably the last 2 weeks of September, the last week of September. And so Neal came home and said, hey, I'm going to own the Kinston store.
It was probably midway, April. Give me a little credit. It's probably midway. I gave him at least 2 weeks, all right, before. Yeah, you got to have some time to set up the bank account, but go ahead. And you only get 1 day off, so, I mean, yeah. So go ahead, yeah. So I said I was going to sell it.
It's going to be done, and I'm like, whoa. Yeah,
so we need to see a P&L. We need to see what financially how sound this business is.
Where's the sales contract?
Yeah, where's the agreement?
Where's the agreement?
And I said, get that for me, and I'll take it in, and I'll let some people on the legal team look over it that I work with, just to make sure everything's right. And Neal looked at me and said, no, you don't understand. He said, me put the money in his account this day, and I'll put the money in my account next day.
We shook hands.
And I'm going to be the owner. And I was like, okay, all right.
This is not legal.
He's like, this can't be legal. And so
April's like, this is not real. It's not legal. This cannot be real. Yeah, I can imagine if I did that today. Oh gosh, it'd be amazing. But yeah, it was kind of that spirit.
But that's how we got started.
That's right. 100%.
I think it was, yeah, so,
One of the things I learned early on about you, Kenney, was that your word was your word. And if you said you were going to do something, you were going to do it. And that's right. And I had to learn the faith part. And that was difficult for me because in the beginning, when I came aboard, so Neal bought the store October the 1st, 1994, and I came aboard full-time June 1st, 1995. So I don't know how many months that is. 8 months later? But the entire time, that 8 months, I'm behind the scenes working and helping and doing things. But I didn't know you very well. I'd met you a couple of times and I was like, man, this guy's different. I mean, he's so humble and he's just so in tune with what's going on. And what I realized is that, I came from a very corporate structured, corporate America restaurant business, which there's nothing wrong. It works for them. It just doesn't fit for who you had started the company to be. And so I had to learn a whole different setting. And what I noticed right away when I really started helping Neal more is that the caliber of employees that Neal was hiring and bringing on were night and day from what I had interviewed and brought on.
Absolutely.
In the other restaurant industry. And that was probably the biggest thing. And I was like, wow, I mean, yes, you and Neal spent a lot of time with me teaching me how to have a personal side and to build relationships with people, because I always, I would hire you and I would fire you.
Burn them, baby.
Yeah, if it was in the same day, so be it. I mean, that was the nature of the business I came from. But you guys taught me that it's about people and that it was about building relationships and talking to them and working side by side with them. And that was one of the other things that drew me in. It was not a clipboard management position, because that's not who I am. I get in there and get my hands dirty with everybody and still do to this day. And that was one of the things that was so different and that brought me in. Is you mean I actually get to work side by side with my employees, not above them.
Right. We're
equals in here. We're just getting it done. I'm going to lead them through my leadership and I'm going to work side by side with them. And so that was intriguing. And, that's one of the things that really made a decision for me. And, Neal said, and I guess you two talked about it and met, that we'd figure out how to make it financially. Yeah, I took a pay cut to step in, but I felt that strong about it was the right move for us. And if Neal was going to help build a restaurant company and he was going to own his own restaurant, why would I work for somebody else and help somebody else build their company? I needed to be a part of this and wanted to be a part of it. Because I think that, from somebody that's on the sidelines in the beginning, I don't care what your role is. If your spouse is involved in this, you're a part of it.
Yeah.
In some way you become a part of that and you partner together and you carry each other.
You can be an asset to your partner, or you can be a real liability. And I think you touched on two things that I want to kind of go back to. One, we weren't corporate, okay? And I think as we've grown and become a much, much bigger company, multi-state and all that, I think people out there don't understand that we're still not corporate. We're a home office. We're a place where our culture, our all of that stuff still matters to us, and we're intensely loyal to our people out there. But however, we do expect it to be reciprocated. We do expect it to come back this way too. So when there's this kind of mindset that, corporate's here, you know what I mean? When they have that mindset, man, that just drives us crazy, because we're like, you don't know who we are. And I think it's interesting when we open a new store and I go in there and speak to a staff, and because you all know, I don't think as founder of this company, that's that big a deal. I just think I was the right guy to be in the right spot at the right time and get the right people like y'all around me. Right? So I don't see myself as a big deal. So when I speak to a new staff, I love that, because what that does, I think, is that absolutely destroys that corporate mentality, because there's not a lot of CEOs of $100 million companies that go speak to staff. And look, if they come up to talk to me after, I promise you, I'm not looking around at somebody else. They're not getting the fiery eyes, but they're getting my eyeballs right on them. I'm listening to every word they say because they do matter. That little touch that we give as leaders could be the make or break. I may say something in that moment that makes them do this business or makes them a better mom later on or whatever, and that matters to me. And I think if our leaders always had that mindset when interacting with our staffs, it's very easy to hold them accountable then. Do you know what I mean? When we have that kind of relationship, I can say, whoa, you disappointed me today. Let me tell you why. And here's where we got to get better. And they go, yes, sir, or yes, ma'am, and they go on about their business. And I think that as we get bigger, everybody kind of sees the corporate office up here as like this hammer that makes changes on things. But what people don't understand sometimes is I'm making these changes to, one, either lower our food costs, two, I'm the biggest franchisee I have 22 of these restaurants that I own. Why would I ever do anything to hurt the food cost and hurt myself? That is the dumbest thing. I mean, think of the logic behind that. So I'm like your biggest fan out there as far as trying to lower your food costs. I'm not just sitting back counting royalty fees, you know? So let's fast forward now. So y'all came to work with me for a long time, and literally in this home office, and were my right and my left arm, you know, and Dan Jones was my original right arm, and we're going to get him on this podcast as well. Now that he's back, he took a little hiatus, but he's back working with us, and it's just so awesome to have him back too. But for this first podcast here, though, what I want to do is kind of get you to talk about your experience working in this office a little bit more, and how that kind of positioned you and got you ready for now going to Lenore. In the next podcast, we'll talk more about the actual Lenore store and kind of what you've accomplished there, and in spite of competition. But let's talk a little bit about your time in the corporate office. And I just said it, time in the home office, and we'll go from there. Okay?
Well, it was a really good experience working at the home office for so long because it taught us how to manage an enterprise and get our hands around so many different stores at one time.
Yeah.
And it helped tremendously to be able to know how to do that.
Yeah, and I think also working at the home office, and I hate when people use the word corporate. It just makes me cringe. I love when people call us or refer to us as the home office, and I still think of myself as part of the home office because
Absolutely.
in working at the home office, it gave us the opportunity to. Sometimes when you're in the fire, when you're always in the fire and you're always just grinding in the store, you can't see a bigger picture. You can't see, well, if we did this, would this help? If we did that, would that help? And I think working at the home office, it helped us in a lot of ways be able to see from a distance and not be so emotionally attached to a situation in the store. It allowed me to be able to see it and look at it from a different set of eyes of how I could help a store, or how I could be a resource for them, or how that tool would help them. And not, because when you're in the store working every day, you forget about all these tools. You forget about the things that you've been shown.
Because you're just reacting.
Yeah, we're reacting.
Right.
So being a part of the home office and being a part of a team, I think being a part of a team helped me.
That helped more than anything.
Yeah, I think being a part of a team also helped me in the fact that I had to, you know, anybody who's worked with me for a lot of time, and Neal, we can be very controlling, and but working at the home office also helped me with that, because I had to learn, trust, and have faith in my team that was going out to do something. So that helped me getting into the store that we're in now, and the role that we're in now is having the ability to listen to them and hear what their thoughts were, and then help them react and respond to what needs to happen. So making me a better listener, because that's one of my weak spots, is being a better listener, and also being able to coach and to guide, and also sometimes knowing when to get out of the way and just let them go.
And that's been a real eye-opening experience for us. Coming from the home office background, it's been really good for us to be able to take a brand new location and grow them and let them go and let them flourish, because, you know, when we were working in stores before, they were always our stores, and we were always there all the time. We haven't
Right.
always been there all the time in this store, and they have accepted and grown to the challenge. And we had to learn that. You learn that by working at the home office, because you can't be in every store all the time. You got to teach them how to grow on their own.
And something else that I don't know a lot of people know about the home office.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Well, one of the interesting things that I think comes from that is if they share our values, if their heart's in the right place and their work ethic's in the right place, they may make a bad decision, but they're never going to make a decision that's going to put you out of business. So that's where you've got to get to that understanding that it's okay. It's okay. Hey, look, and I've even said this before. I don't know if you recall this, but I even said that when you go to them, you don't even say, hey, that was a horrible decision. What were you thinking? You go to them and go, hey, look, I appreciate the effort, but next time, what about X, Y, Z? You give them that other thought, and say, but I love the fact that you took initiative and you tried. And at that point right there, they grow. They grow. It's when you come in and go, wow, you big dummy. What were you thinking on that? That's when you shut them down and you got a problem.
Right.
Well, look, that's the end of part one of my conversation with Neal and April Dennis. And we're going to make this we got too much to talk about, too many years, too much past, too much time together. So we got to have a part two on this, because I know a lot of you who are on Workplace and in the Hwy 55 I'm sure you're wondering, what is going on with Dancing Beauty and the Beast and Bluey and Spider-Man and understand Neal Dennis still has a Batman room, so he gets to dress up as Batman every now and then. So we're going to talk to them about that on part two. Appreciate it, gang. We'll see you soon.